I must rise above the flames.
Welcome back, Ronin Renegades. I'm Lupinefiasco. This is Daily FaB Gameplay, and today we are playing our favorite FaB Rising Rebellion. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the Resistance. What we do here is review replays of games I played on the Talishar.net client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my games. I will talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now, then compare that to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns with the overall goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future to take down paper events and walk away with that shiny, shiny cardboard. If you would like to check out the list I'm playing here or try it for yourself, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see every new episode of Daily FaB Gameplay in your video feed. There is also a link to my Blue Sky, my Discord, and my Patreon, where you can get access to the matchup guide for this deck and for all of my decks forever. Now, without further ado, let's jump right into the action. This is another reminder that if you haven't already entered to win a free Armory deck Aurora with Daily FaB Gameplay Aurora Custom Marvel and Tokens, you can go to my How to Play Aurora video published last Friday, comment with your favorite Aurora card, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and by the end of the week you could win a random drawing for these fabulous prizes. Enter even if you don't need an Armory deck Aurora. Maybe you're Dark Odious. You already have one, you still watch. Leave a comment. No Bagelman. You need a new Rune Blade? Leave a comment. What's your favorite Aurora card? Come on, what could it kill ya? Anyway, into Dorinthea, we have already sideboarded incorrectly. By default, I board for Dawnblade Dorinthea, which I think is the scarier of the two. Hatchet's Dory is just pure value race. Their numbers versus our numbers. We're going to try to leverage what we have to get better numbers than she can. The problem with bringing in 4 block defense reactions is that Dorinthea usually attacks for 2 and 3. The first hatchet attacks for 2. If it has go again, the second hatchet attacks for 3. Yes, Braveforge Bracers could make the second hatchet have 4 power, or Blade Runner brings it up to 4, but in general, our defense reactions don't do damage, which we would really like to do as FaB, especially when we're breaking Mask of the Pouncing Links for Salt the Wound, or trying to go wide enough that we can rupture a Breaking Point or Lava Burst. So while it isn't game losing by any means, we would prefer to sideboard differently. Against Hatchet's Dory, the one thing that we do really want to be aware of is Valiant Dynamo, getting constant value every turn. We really want to end this game quickly if we can, though Dorinthea has a lot of 3 blocks, a lot of damage prevention, 4 block D-reacts that are going to prevent us from doing that. So while this isn't a hard game per se, we are not concerned about arsenal disruption or hand disruption outside of Provoke. We do know that this has the potential to be a bad matchup for us if we get outvalued. So we're going to try not to do that. Start by putting our Phoenix Flame in the bin. We won the die roll and chose to go second. This hand blocks very well. It has 2 3 blocks. It has a 4 block defense reaction. It also functions if Dorinthea just passes the turn. We can play Rising Resentment for 3 go again, then play E-Strike, bottoming Oath of Loyalty, giving it +2, and Arsenal Shelter from the Storm. Again, not the best card to have in Arsenal, but it does free us up to not block Hatchet of Body, and then after Dorinthea activates Braveforge Bracers, we can block Hatchet of Mind for 4. Let's think about this block. Clearly I am. Rising Resentment cleanly covers 2, but it is our best starter between Rising Resentment and Oath of Loyalty. I would rather block with Oath of Loyalty, but between those 3 cards, I would rather block with E-Strike, which is generically good, but not as powerful with what FaB wants to do. We can Oath of Loyalty, Rising Resentment, and then try to draw into something that either pays for Emberblade or attacks, and here we're going to use our Shelter from the Storm, cash it in for 4 points of value, keep our 2 Draconic starters, Oath of Loyalty being the startiest starter of the 2, but if we draw into some non-Draconic attacks, we want the luxury of not needing to play Oath of Loyalty. This hand just plays itself. We will Arsenal Rising Resentment. We don't need to play it here because we already have a Draconic starter in Oath of Loyalty. We will save Rising Resentment for a future turn where we don't have a Draconic starter. And like I said, Dorinthea doesn't have Arsenal Disruption, so arsenaling the Rising Resentment does not pose any sort of value loss compared to just cashing it in for 3 points of value now. Oath of Loyalty, Searing Emberblade, activate FaB, play Phoenix Flame, play Lava Burst. Lava Burst gets our Tiger Stripe Shuko trigger. Just a real standard, clean 3-card 14. We love to see it. Really leveraging the Tiger Stripe Shuko. That is how we will keep up with Valiant Dynamos over on Dorinthea's side of the board. She gets +1 defense from Dynamo. We get +1 attack from Tiger Stripe Shuko. That is how I will be judging which cards I play on all of my turns. What is the sequence of plays that gets me my Tiger Stripe Shuko value? That is really what I am prioritizing in this matchup because I need to keep up with Dory's value. We get 2 defense reactions out of Dorinthea. Not great. We would have preferred that she could not just cleanly block with a couple 1-card 4s, but it's fine. We have a Rising Resentment in our hand. Again, we need to decide how we are going to Rising Resentment in our arsenal. How are we going to sequence to maximize our Tiger Stripe Shuko value? The answer is that we can play Ignite, we can pitch Brand with Cinderclaw to attack with Searing Emberblade, we can activate FaB, pick up and play Phoenix Flame, and then we can play Rising Resentment from our arsenal. The Rising Resentment from arsenal doesn't really get value outside of being 3 power, but if I'm going to arsenal Rising Resentment or Brand with Cinderclaw, I would rather have Brand with Cinderclaw in arsenal, so I can turn on my Art of the Dragons or my Fire Tenant strike first if I draw into another Oath of Loyalty. So what I'm really looking at here is just taking 2, letting Dorinthea activate Brave Forge Bracers, attack with Hatchet of Mind for 4, and then play Loyalty Beyond the Grave and just cover up 3 and get that first loyalty into my graveyard. Something to think about that I really did not do over the course of this game, and I wish I had, is start blocking these Hatchet of Bodies for 2 with Flamescale Furnace. We can just do it the 1 time and it actually blocks for 3. Because the first Hatchet doesn't hit, Dory hasn't hit with a weapon, cannot pay into Brave Forge Bracers, and then that is, the second Hatchet only comes in for 3 instead of 4. So something to think about. Again, maybe you play against Dorinthea and she just happens to have Command and Conquer, and now you are rewarded for having armor block, but I'm just not expecting it to happen. It isn't something that I anticipate, so we will block with our Flamescale Furnace at some point in this game. Don't worry about ending the game without using your armor. Dorinthea is not known for her spike damage, especially not in the reaction step. You will know when she is dealing a lot of damage to you and be able to block, but it is just a missed point of value, and as I keep saying, we really need to be outvaluing Dorinthea over the course of this game. We draw into a really interesting hand because it doesn't quite work the way that we want it to. So for one thing, we're not going to block this Hatchet. As a rule, don't block the first Hatchet with cards from hand. You can block with armor, you can block from arsenal, but we are, Dorinthea just pitched Glint the Quicksilver. We anticipate her having copies of Glint in deck, and if you block the first Hatchet with a card from hand and Dorinthea gets to play Glint the Quicksilver, she just draws a card and we don't want her to do that. So as far as how we are going to sequence this turn, it's very interesting. Thankfully, we do have Brand with Cinderclaw so that we can turn Fire Tenant Strike first Draconic. Our question is, are we pitching Salt the Wound to attack with Searing Emberblade and efficiently using all of our resources, or are we pitching Salt the Wound to attack with Breaking Point and wasting a resource? Because what we get to do for the first 4 chain links is play Oath of Loyalty, play Brand with Cinderclaw, play Fire Tenant Strike first, activate FaB, pick up and play the Phoenix Flame, and that gets 4, 7, 10, 12 points of value out of those cards. Then we either pitch Salt the Wound, attack with Searing Emberblade to get a 4-card 15 and Arsenal Breaking Point, or we pitch Salt the Wound to play Breaking Point, get a 5-card 17, which is worse value, but actually threatens an on-hit Dorinthea does have Crown of Providence, but we have 2 more copies of Breaking Point, and if we can make Dory use the crown now, she won't have it available later. So it is this weird question where what do we care more about, the on-hit or efficient use of resources? In any case, we're not blocking this Hatchet of Mind. We can go to 30 because we know that we're going to threaten either 15 or 17 damage. We don't have to decide now, of course. We can wait and see how Dorinthea blocks over the course of her turn. If Dorinthea just takes a bunch of damage, then I'm probably not incentivized to play Breaking Point, because she can crown away her arsenal and clearly has some combination of cards that leads to a lot of damage. If Dorinthea gives us a card and armor on the Oath of Loyalty, and then a card on Brand with Cinderclaw and another card on Fire Tenant, then, Breaking Point looks pretty good. We're either going to strip the hand, or we're going to get her equipment and her arsenal, and maybe she draws something that she can't really use. But if I am making the call now of just how is this turn going to play out, I want to Arsenal Breaking Point. We have blues in our deck. Breaking Point works really well as soon as we have 2 Draconic starters, or a starter and Display Loyalty, and a blue to pay for the turn. I don't feel like we really need to bend over backwards to try to fire this Breaking Point off now, when we can just maximize our value, which I'm going to keep harping on it, we really need to be doing against Hatchet's Dory. So now we can activate FaB. So far, Dorinthea has blocked with 2 cards from hand. We're going to see if she gives us a card on this Phoenix Flame. It does come in for 2. We get armor, so cool. We fire off the Breaking Point, and I don't hate it. I just don't love it. So in hindsight, this is a great call, because if we let Dorinthea have Provoke and Blade Runner, she pitches Provoke, attacks with Hatchet for 2. She plays Blade Runner. The next Hatchet attacks for 6. So we take 8 damage from this, and if Dorinthea has Hit and Run in Arsenal, then she has Tunic to attack with a 3rd Hatchet. So potentially, we are looking at 8, 11, 15 points of damage from 3 cards in Tunic, and the fact that Breaking Point got red Blade Runner and a blue is really good. But we have no way of knowing that that is what we're going to get, and that's what's going to happen, and I really think that arsenaling Breaking Point, just from our perspective, was the right thing to do. So, of course, what this does mean is that Dorinthea has no cards in hand to pitch to attack with hatchets. She chooses not to use Tunic to attack with a hatchet for 2. Really makes me think that she's sitting on a hit and run in Arsenal and trying to set up this 3 hatchet turn. Doesn't really help us, but it does mean that she didn't get to reset Dynamo, so we do get a bit of value from that to make up for us losing value by just playing Breaking Point. What are we doing with this hand? Like I said, we are prioritizing triggering our Shuko, and we do have a way to do that without using our blue. So we have 2 ways of navigating this turn. The first would be play Ignite as our Draconic starter, pitch Brand to attack with Searing Emberblade, play Blaze Headlong, activate FaB, pick up and play Phoenix Flame, Arsenal, Shelter from the Storm. That is our highest value line. But because we are valuing defense reactions lower in this matchup, we don't want to use them and we would rather be attacking, we can play Ignite, then pitch Shelter from the Storm to attack with Searing Emberblade, then attack with Blaze Headlong, then activate FaB and play the Phoenix Flame, which gets our Shuko trigger, and Arsenal blue Brand with Cinderclaw. Blue Brand with Cinderclaw is not a good Draconic starter, but it is a Draconic starter, and that is relevant. We really need to be consistently going wide on all of our turns. We can't afford to brick against a hero that just shits value, so arsenaling the Brand here is fine, and it's a great way to get value out of our Shelter from the Storm that would otherwise just kind of cover up vanilla damage from Arsenal. Not looking at breaking Mask of the Pouncing Lynx anytime soon. I reinforce this in all of my FaB videos. I think it's important for beginning FaB players to know when you should be looking to get value with Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, and it is when your opponent starts to get to that 15 health mark. We can value Mask of the Pouncing Lynx at a minimum of 6. That is the value of Lava Burst plus Tiger Stripe Shuko on a standard 2-card hand of Draconic Head Jab, Pitch Blue, attack with Searing Emberblade, activate FaB, play Phoenix Flame. Your Pouncing Lynx is worth 6. So Pouncing Lynx at 6 is worth maybe anywhere from 33 to 50% of your opponent's life total when they're around that 15 health mark. When your opponent's at 30, it's worth 20% of their overall health. So you're just waiting until that Pouncing Lynx is worth 30, 40, 50% of your opponent's life total, and if you can get them even lower before Pouncing Lynxing, then you're really, really well off. What are we doing with this hand? Again, we have a Draconic starter in Ignite. We have our blue Brand with Cinderclaw in Arsenal. So what I like doing with this hand is blue Brand, Ronin, Blaze Headlong, activate FaB, play Phoenix Flame, Arsenal, Ignite. This is another case where we really could just put Furnace in front of the Hatcheted Body here to make sure that Dorinthea can't use Braveforge Bracers, and then Loyalty Beyond the Grave covers up the other Hatchet perfectly, but it's just vanilla damage either way. We kind of don't need to care about it. We're still at 30. Dorinthea is threatening 5, 6 with what we know, and we're going to cover 3 of it with Loyalty Beyond the Grave. Do we need to banish our 2 loyalties on our next turn? I mean, we could, but we don't need to, and I really don't want to. I want to get Dorinthea lower, again, so that a random card off the top of my deck is worth a greater overall percentage of her life total than it is right now. And we have a functional hand without an extra card from the top of our deck. This is fine. Between Ignite and Brand with Cinderclaw, you could Arsenal playing either one as our Draconic starter here, and then keeping the other one in Arsenal. I think leading with Brand is fine. Ignite has the benefit of discounting our Demonstrate Devotions or our Breaking Points. Brand with Cinderclaw has the bonus of turning on our Art of Dragon Blood and Fire. But I think this is fine. We haven't seen a Demonstrate Devotion yet. We know that we still have 2 Breaking Points in our deck. So having the Ignite available compared to the Brand with Cinderclaw is kind of just okay. But either one is defensible. I'm not saying that playing Brand is the absolute 100% correct thing to do in this case. It just is what I did at this point, and I think that is fine. Again, not looking at breaking Pouncing Lynx anytime soon. Dorinthea is going to figure out her blocks. She does have Valiant Dynamo. She's got some armor. She's been sitting on this Tunic for a while, and I believe this Arsenal has been hanging out for some time. So she is just looking for an opportunity to do something. That's okay. It's vanilla damage. We haven't seen any kind of disruption from her, so I'm not putting her on Hatchet, Blade Runner, Hit and Run, Hatchet, Command and Conquer, or some big value line like that. I'm just expecting that she's going to do numbers until the game ends. But she does give us a block, which I love to see. Giving us Dynamo, but no defense reaction and no other 3 block. I assume this is the 4-card hand that she is really committed to doing something with. Does that incentivize me to break Mask of the Pouncing Lynx? The answer is no. If I had a breaking point in hand, then I would probably use Lynx to find Ignite. But with an Ignite, Mask of the Pouncing Lynx doesn't really find anything besides raw damage, and I can just wait. So here we do find a breaking point, which is fantastic. We have a very reasonable hand of cards, depending on what Dorinthea's turn looks like. If we just keep 5 cards here, we can do Oath of Loyalty, Ronin Renegade, Ignite, Breaking Point, use our Flight Path, activate FaB, play Phoenix Flame, play Lava Burst, and overall we're threatening, what is this, 4, 7, 9, 14, 15, 16, 21 damage, which is pretty good with some disruption tied into it. Looking at Sharpened Senses, this is Dorinthea attempting to go very wide. The hatchets very will likely have Go Again, so we're going to see what that looks like, if there are any on-hits tied to them. With one of the cards being Steelplate Supremacy suddenly dealing 21 damage does not seem as good, because it does not threaten lethal, and I don't want Dorinthea to draw a card. I do want to play Breaking Point, though, and punish Dorinthea if her follow-up to this hatchet is just Hatchet, so we're going to cover it with Furnace and Lava Burst. If Dorinthea just sends Hatchet for 4 and then Arsenal's the last card, we're in a fantastic position. It does seem to be what Dorinthea is doing, so it's okay. instead of playing In the Swing, which is going to bring this up to 7 and give it Go Again, and an additional attack from Dorinthea, which is going to let her use Tunic to get a 3rd Hatchet, this was a big turn. Should we block with Breaking Point now that Dorinthea doesn't have an arsenal? The answer is no. Breaking Point does 5 on offense and 3 on defense. But blocking with or using Flight Path suddenly does not look very good. We don't want to break Loyalty here because we cannot guarantee that the card off the top of our deck will be Draconic and playable under Oath of Loyalty, and because we cannot work a Phoenix Flame activation or FaB activation to grab Phoenix Flame into this turn after Ignite is played, but before we play Breaking Point, we won't have an action point to play a Phoenix Flame, meaning that we will just arsenal the Phoenix Flame. So if we draw a card from our Loyalty Beyond the Grave that we can't play under Oath of Loyalty, we are just screwing ourselves. We're losing Phoenix Flame value, and we don't want to lose value against Hatchet's Dorinthea. I mean, we are kind of losing value against Hatchet's Dorinthea because we can't get a Shuko trigger on this turn, but that is just the way this works out when we Ignite to discount our Breaking Point. It's a great line. I love that FaB has the option to do this now, but sometimes you just don't get to play your Phoenix Flame, which is too bad. Breaking Point here just represents 5 points of damage. Dorinthea elects to take it, going down to 12. We could break Pouncing Links here and find a Lava Burst or Assault the Wound and grab our Phoenix Flame, use our Flight Path, but we really don't need to. Drawing into the 3rd Loyalty Beyond the Grave sucks because it just gets no value. What I'm expecting is Hatchet for 3 following this. Dorinthea does not pitch a blue, she pitches a yellow, so she can't pay for Brave Forge Bracers, and I'm guessing she doesn't want to pitch this last card in her hand, so we will just take 2 from this Hatchet, use Loyalty on the 2nd Hatchet. For our turn, we need to really think about what we're doing because we don't have very many good options. We can play Fire Tenant Strike first, then follow with Phoenix Flame, which attacks for 1. We can pitch our Warmongers to play attack with Searing Emberblade, and then we can play Salt the Wound, which gets us our Shuko trigger. We can arsenal Salt the Wound and try to set up for a bigger turn later. I think the line we want here is to take 2, block the 2nd Hatch for 3, don't break Loyalty Beyond the Grave, because this hand is kind of clunky, and we really want to be able to make it not clunky, and I don't know that a random card will do that. What I would like to do is Fire Tenant, Phoenix Flame for 1, which does not get the buff from itself, but does get the buff from Fire Tenant, pitch to Emberblade, play Salt the Wound, and that's how I get my Shuko trigger. That is how I potentially get damage through the Valiant Dynamo to make sure that Salt the Wound is attacking for a minimum of 4 with the Shuko. But, I mean, if we just take this line, we pitch Warmongers, attack with Emberblade, and then Arsenal Salt the Wound, and that's fine too. This is a pretty low impact turn no matter what. We're just hoping that Dorinthea does not have something big cooking. The fact that she's giving us a card makes me feel okay about that. Should we play Warmongers here? The answer is no. So far, I've seen 2 cards now that Dorinthea could play that would not be playable under War, but I'm not going to hedge on Dorinthea having big turns that are reliant on that because she's such a reaction-based deck. Now we draw into a really weird hand where we have Brand with Cinderclaw, we can then follow with Art of Dragon Blood, which gets Go Again. And then, like, something else happens. We could E-Strike for 7, or we could pitch our 2 reds and attack with Emberblade, and then FaB and play Phoenix Flame, and then play Salt the Wound. This is a weird one, where I actually, despite having a clunky hand, I do want a card off the top of my deck, because all the pieces are here. And if we can draw a 6th card that really glues this hand together, then suddenly we have something incredible cooking. So I'm not going to block the first Hatchet, I never will. Although actually Furnace and Flight Path are looking pretty good here, and we just cover up the Brave Forge Bracers, we're also about to end the game. So having Flight Path available to break without losing value from not having blocked with it previously is looking pretty good. We've got a Hatchet coming in for 7, which puts us to 5. Again, I want this entire hand. Dorinthea does not have Tunic, so I am not worried about a follow-up Hatchet that takes me to a life total where suddenly a random Steel Blade Shunt can kill me. We'll just go to 5 here. We're going to banish our 2 loyalties, and we are the greatest Flesh and Blood players in the world. So the way this hand will function is Brand with Cinderclaw, followed by Art of Dragon Blood, followed by Blaze Headlong. And what I'm really hoping for is one of those cards to hit so that I can break Pouncing Links to find yellow Brand with Cinderclaw. Because if I find yellow Brand with Cinderclaw, what I get to do is Brand, Art of Dragon Blood, Blaze Headlong, Brand with Cinderclaw, play Art of Dragon Fire, which gets discounted by Blood, then break Flight Path to give Fire go again, activate FaB, pick up Phoenix Flame, play E-Strike bottoming the Phoenix Flame, giving E-Strike go again, then playing Salt the Wound, which should be incredible. If that doesn't happen, if it's Brand, Art of Dragon Blood, Blaze Headlong, if none of those hit, we lose the ability to break Pouncing Links to find Brand with Cinderclaw yellow, because we will activate FaB, pick up and play Phoenix Flame. Phoenix Flame could trigger Mask of the Pouncing Links, but then between Blaze Headlong, Phoenix Flame, and Brand with Cinderclaw, those all use the 3 quote-unquote triggers from Art of Dragon Blood, and our Art of Dragon Fire doesn't get a discount. So we will start this turn, Brand with Cinderclaw, Art of Dragon Blood, Blaze Headlong. If any of those hit, we break Pouncing Links, find yellow Brand with Cinderclaw. If none of them hit, we reevaluate the turn. And it's probably just going to be activate FaB, play Phoenix Flame. If the Phoenix Flame hits, now we can really think about what we're doing with Pouncing Links. If the Phoenix Flame doesn't hit, I'm probably just E-striking for 7 and calling it done. Saying that between 2, 6, 10, 12, 19 damage, with Dorinthea at an effective 13, she had to give us enough cards that she doesn't really have anything to do on her turn, and we can try again next turn. Brand with Cinderclaw, blocked by Crown of Providence. See if Dorinthea is going to sink the Arsenal to draw a card from the top of the deck, which would be her best line at this point. Unless this card in Arsenal is a defense reaction, if she correctly assesses that we are attempting to kill her, that this is our pop-off turn, then just having an extra card in hand to block with is the best thing she can do. At this point, we did not hit with Brand with Cinderclaw. I'm assuming that Art of Dragon Blood isn't going to hit either, gets covered by a 3-block and Dynamo. Blaze Headlong, I'm assuming, gets covered by Braveforge Bracers and a 3-block, which, yeah, puts us into this unfortunate spot where we can no longer get our Art of Dragon Fire value from it being Draconic and from a discount from Art of Dragon Blood. We're going to activate FaB, play the Phoenix Flame. If the Phoenix Flame hits, then what we can do is break Mask of the Pouncing Links for Lava Burst. We play the Lava Burst, we use Flight Path to give it go again. We can play E-Strike for 5 go again, bottoming Art of Dragon Fire, and then we play Salt the Wound. And that should be enough to, if not kill Dorinthea, be very close to killing Dorinthea. We're doing the E-Strike first, and I don't particularly think it matters if we do the E-Strike or the Lava Burst first. We're really hoping that Dorinthea just gives us 1 card here. I don't know what she would do with 1 card, but if she only blocks with 1 card and takes 2 damage, then Salt the Wound should definitely kill her. If she gives us 2 cards and blocks 6, then we can still Flight Path, play Salt. Salt will attack for 4. Dorinthea needs to give us Tunic to not be dead, so that is what we're going to do. We will take Dorinthea down to 1, and then it's just a matter of finding any sort of consistent damage. Dorinthea has no armor, and this is a hand that'll win the game. So Rising Resentment, Searing Emberblade, activate FaB, play Phoenix Flame, Art of Dragon Fire is 3/3/3/1/5. The 3/3/3/1 should be enough to get 4 cards away from Dorinthea, and then Dragonfire will just kill her. So, interesting game. Oh, there's a Command and Conquer. So Dorinthea did have them, she just didn't draw them, which is great news for us, and does reinforce that not blocking a random hatchet with our Flamescale Furnace was actually a really good decision. FaB does get pretty good value. We drew very well for getting our Shuko value every turn. It won't happen like that all the time. If you watched yesterday's game against Aurora, we had a lot of clunkers that just didn't do anything, much less get a Shuko trigger. And I think if we had drawn those hands this game, we would have had a much worse experience, where Dorinthea is just outvaluing us and taking this game much longer than turn 10, getting more dynamo value. But for the game we had, we drew very well. FaB can output some pretty good damage. Unfortunately, I'm not scrolling down to see like the end of my game, to see what those last few turns looked like where we really did pop off. But you can see, damage we're threatening, 12, 10, 17, 11, 10, 12, there's some pretty good double-digit numbers. So this deck can pop. Some issues I'm noticing with it: lack of fealty, lack of ability to make things draconic. Now, we didn't see it display loyalty, and we didn't see it demonstrate devotion. And I might even be boarding them out against Dorinthea, assuming that she's Dawnblade, and not wanting to play my 2-block attacks that need big hands to function. So that might be an issue to work on with sideboarding, but, yesterday against Aurora, we saw a lack of fealty and just not drawing the cards that make fealty, which to me says maybe we're too reliant on cards that need fealty. Even with 9 Branded Cinderclaws, 3 display loyalties, and 3 demonstrate devotions, maybe we need to cut back on our Art of Dragonfire Blood. Dragon Power Blue is fine because it's blue. Something to think about. Fire Tenant not being draconic is sort of an issue, so maybe something to think about. And I've got some deck building ideas kicking around that I will share with you all, soon after a little more testing. But the deck does have potential. I don't think it's better than Zen or Aurora in the meta, but, FaB is growing on me. So I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope you learned something. If so, be sure to head jab that like button. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It's free, it helps me out a lot. I have a Discord, a Blue Sky, and a Patreon, links to which are in the video description below. The Armory Deck Aurora giveaway is running through Sunday. Pop over to my How to Play Aurora video, like the video, leave a comment with your favorite Aurora card. I'll be doing the drawing on Sunday, reaching out to the winner after that. Until the next time I see you on Daily FaB Gameplay, take care.